Hey, MonadoBoy16 here. Welcome to VintageTech, the show where we talk about old technology that are popular or unpopular, recognizable or obscure. Now, for our first 2022 episode of VintageTech, we're going to talk about a Nintendo system that turned 20 last year, alongside the Game Boy Advance. And that system is, of course, the Nintendo GameCube. Yeah, this one has been pretty iconic for fans, because fans love it more than Nintendo. Yeah, this was really a revolutionary Nintendo console, and it failed in America. Now, before we start this episode, let's talk about the introduction of it. Codenamed Dolphin, the Nintendo GameCube was released in 2001 in Japan and North America, and 2002 in Europe. It was the first Nintendo console to use optical discs. However, it is not designed to play DVDs, and instead focused on games only. Unlike its competitors, this was done to prevent piracy, which was later proven unsuccessful by the Action Replay disc. However, there is one GameCube variant that can also play regular DVDs. More on that later. Okay, well that was an interesting introduction. So, the GameCube's launch has some pretty titles, as usual, per system tradition. Luigi's Mansion, one of the first game in the series that stars Mario Rudder, and the only game in the Luigi's Mansion series to be developed by Nintendo themselves, as a layer game series will become developed by Next Level Games, which Nintendo recently acquired last year. And then there's Super Monkey Ball, which was a port of an arcade game called Monkey Ball. And I think it's the first Sega published game to be released after they've gone third party, because by the time the GameCube was released, the Dreamcast had already been discontinued. And as such, it competed against the PlayStation 2 and newcomer Xbox. Anyway, now a brief history of it, let's talk about the design architecture, shall we? Okay, so here we have is the GameCube. It came in different colors, minus the black one, obviously. Top we have power buttons. All games must unique. A power button, which is white, a reset button, which is still flat, and which is still, it has a concave indent in order to rest your finger. Then here is the tray, where you insert the GameCube disc. On the front, we have 4 controller ports and 2 memory cards left. This is the GameCube memory card. The memory card goes in. It has 2 slots, but most games use 1 slot. You can use with a memory card or use with accessories. We'll talk about one of them later. Anyway, on the side we have a cooling fan. On the back is where you see the system's own carrying handle and the AV input. And my model only has an AV input. This is the layer version. Why is this the layer version, to be honest?
Well, the early GameCube model also has an additional port for component. However, that does not work how you think. You need to use the audio from the AV port and the component port. This can lead to a jacked up mess of cables. Also on early GameCube models, the Nintendo GameCube logo on the top can be removed. The Layer Doll 101 model did away with these. The easy way to tell what model you have is by looking at the back of the GameCube. If the GameCube has 2 video output ports, then it's the early model. But if it only has 1, then it's the Doll 101 model.
Yeah, you know the deal. You have to find the later version to only use a... But earlier models have a digital input. Now, there are some aftermarket adapters for this GameCube. Not this one, the other one. Which is the HDMI adapter. It only works on the early GameCube model, so just in case you're wondering. And on the bottom, what we have here is the adapter for Game Boy player. We'll talk about that later. And then these ports for the controversial broadband adapter. More on that later. These are the covers. I do not have the cover for it, though to be fair, it wasn't there with that, since it was only for the Game Boy player. Now anyway, pop a GameCube, you get like GameCube game. This is Mario Party 4. Now, there are 2 discs in it. This one is pretty much dead on arrival because of scratch discs. And this one is just used. I got it used from GameStop at one point. Anyway, you put the disc in here, then enjoy. Yeah, that's something I should mention about the GameCube spindle, is that it has a little eject button. Which means you press it, the disc comes out. That's a lot more convenient than having to have the little indents to pick up the disc. In fact, I think I'll show an example of an indent. This black and white Video Now player, which is looking rather sus because kids these days, although it's easy to pull it, this little indent makes things a lot easier. But the pressing button's a lot more convenient though. Now, I know how to put that Among Us joke because kids these days. Anyway. Enough Video Nows and Among Us jokes. Let's take a look at the components that are inside. Now, unfortunately, it's a lot a complicated process, so I think someone else should talk about it. But I will take a look at the important stuff.
The GameCube uses a PowerPC-based architecture, something Nintendo used up until the Wii U. The CPU chip, codenamed Gecko, was developed by IBM. Yes, that IBM who coined the term personal computer with their 5150. I'll talk about that PC later. Now as for graphics, it uses the Flipper chip developed by ATI. ATI, however, will later be bought out by AMD in 2006 and will make ATI an in-name only brand up until 2010, where it was phased out. Now, the technology behind the GPU drive was developed by Panasonic, who also made their own GPU called the Panasonic Cube, making it the only Nintendo console variation to have GPU playback. Now, if you want to learn more about the Panasonic Cube, check out the video by Gaming Historian. Off topic here, but during my short-lived senior year in high school, I noticed a silvery boombox typed by Panasonic in my horticulture class. So I wrote this sweet thing Panasonic Cube reference. Even though the Panasonic Cube is short-lived, they continue to use that silvery job on some of their other products.
Okay, now you know what are the processors that power the GameCube. And not only to point out, the GameCube is the only Nintendo system to prioritize graphics over gameplay. Something Nintendo does not do nowadays. And yeah, graphics are pretty much advertisers these days. Gameplay is important than graphics. This means you, EA, Microsoft, and some other company who I won't mention. Well. Oh, and one thing I should point out, yes, you can fit regular 8cm DVDs into it, however they won't play, unless you modify it, of course. But anyway, now we're talking about system, let's talk about its drift-proof controller. Okay, we have the GameCube controller itself. It's pretty an iconic masterpiece. It has an analog stick, a left analog stick, and this is the first Nintendo to use this iconic octagonal design up until the Wii, where it was the last one to use it. Okay. Next we have the C stick, which, unlike what you see ones, this one is just the C stick. C stands for camera, by the way. And then we have a D-pad. It's also the last Nintendo system variation to use this D-pad design. And it's also the last one features arrows up until the Switch, where you brought it back with the Switch Pro controller. On the front, Nintendo likes to diss the select button every so often. So this front's just start/pause. Because come on, start's often used for pause. Okay. Next, we have two analog shoulder buttons. This is the only Nintendo controller to use those buttons. And they also have a little click into it, where if you press it, it runs, but if you click it, activates the other. This is similar to like the PS5's adaptive triggers, but I'm not sure why Nintendo ditched this analog trigger. In fact, I think they switched back. And then we have this Z button, just a digital button. I'm not sure what Z button is used, but what I could tell in like Melee, which personally I don't like. Please respect my opinion if you do like it. This one is used for grabbing. And then we have the 4 face buttons: A, B, X, and Y. Now, they look very odd, but that could be the reason why, as it could be easier to hit the button without having to look at a controller. Now, the prototype looks a bit different. Now, the A and B buttons are going to be the same ones as I think used in the N64 controller. And the start was red. And this Z button looks like a square. I'll show the image on screen right now, in case you're wondering. Okay.
In addition to the standard GameCube controller, there is also the wireless Wavebird controller, the first modern wireless controller, predating future generations of game consoles with their wireless controllers. It relies on RF technology instead of infrared, much like Atari's CX42 joysticks, the first ever official wireless controller. That's a topic for another video. But how it works is that the RF signal on receiver needs to be set to the right channel. When a signal is received, the LED light on receiver will be lit up. The Wavebird controller is also larger and heavier than the standard GameCube controller. Most likely because of the channel selector, off-off, on-off switch, LED, and battery compartment. Speaking of batteries, the controller takes 2 AA batteries. Of course, per Nintendo hardware tradition, with many advanced features, at least one compromise has to be made. The controller lacks a rumble feature, although it's more likely to save battery life, as the motors would drain them very quickly. I guess Nintendo did not want another Super Scope fiasco, as that controller is infamous with its low battery life. Off topic here again, but in the live-action Super Mario Bros. Movie, the Devo guns used to evolve humans are Super Scopes painted black and slightly modified. It's interesting and ironic that a bad movie is using a failed Nintendo product as a prop to evolve humans. Oh, and another off topic here. Are many of you excited for the new Mario movie that stars Chris Pratt? I know I am. Anyway, shall we continue with the episode on the GameCube?
Now, I know what you're thinking, but wireless controllers these days have rumble modes in them while maintaining good battery life. We have our Joy-Cons, DualSenses, and Xbox controllers with the share button. Okay, now that we talked about the controllers and the console, let's talk about some accessories. Now, I don't have that many GameCube accessories, but I do have 2 that I have. This is the Game Boy player, and this is the GameCube mic. But I will talk about some other ones. But for now, let's take a look at these 2 accessories right now. Okay, first things first, we have the Game Boy player. Now, this is a pretty unique design. And this is where the Game Boy Advance cartridges go. And that is for the link cable, the GBA link cable. Oh, and speaking of GBA, one thing I should point out is that while I was actually shooting for a potential VintageTech episode, and not the intro that is seen in current episodes, on the season to be honest, I actually found my GBA wireless adapter. That adapter actually came with Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green. It allows 2 GBAs to connect wirelessly. It was like DS download play before the DS even existed anyway. Let's continue the episode. Installation is actually very simple. All you need to do is put the GameCube on top of it, screw them in, yeah, sounds simple, right? Wrong! All you need is the startup disc. Why is the startup disc needed? Well, it's so that the Game Boy can boot up. Why doesn't he start this when installation is simple? Well, I think it's so that it can allow other GameCube games to be played while this is installed. I mean, in the disc compartment. So yeah, that's just in case you're wondering. Now, about the case cabinet. It actually came in a clear case instead of this style case in America. We have to talk about the GameCube mic. This one came with Mario Party 6. And there's a button that allows you to sing to it. Let me test something out. Da 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 da. Yeah. Anyway, this one actually plugs into the memory card 2 slot. But rarely any games use this microphone. In fact, I'll show you games that are on screen right now that use this microphone. Now, I'm only familiar with 3 games. The final 2 Mario Party games on the GameCube, and Odama, which actually came with a clip to put on the GameCube controller. Because if you need to use microcontroller commands and control to, you move the flippers and such, it makes a lot of sense. And yes, you can use it on the Wavebird, even though it defeats the purpose of it being a wireless controller. Yeah. But anyway, those are the only 2 accessories that I have, but there's some more of them. I cannot explain them, but there are a few novel ones that I should talk about.
Other accessories include DK Bongos, which are bongo controllers for GameCube. It works with the Donkey Konga trilogy and Donkey Kong Jungle. Now the latter is actually very important, as it is the first game ever to rate E10 by the ESRB. Then there's the broadband adapter, which allows the GameCube to go online to play multiplayer games. However, it is easily exploited by hackers. Modern Vintage Gamer did a video about it, so check it out if you would. Now, a little side note, Nintendo did not want the GameCube to go online because gamers would not have to pay monthly fees. Yeah, that didn't age well. However, the most unusual controller for the GameCube would have to be the keyboard. Unlike other keyboards for consoles, it's a GameCube controller enlarged with a keyboard. It was made by the ASCII Corporation, the same company behind RPG Maker. The keyboard is used for fans who are online for people to communicate. It takes up to 2 controller ports, so you can't play 4-player Smash with that thing, but it's very unusual, much like the Duke controller and the Power Club. Man, someone has to play Doom with that thing. AK Family Home did play Doom with the Famicom keyboard and SNES mouse. Hey AK, if you're watching this, I challenge you to play Doom with that controller.
Okay. Now to talk about accessories. Oh, I forgot to mention one more thing. There's the GBA to GameCube cable where you can use your GBA as a GameCube controller. Useful in games like Zelda Four Swords Adventures, but for some games like Wario World, it transfers demos. But perhaps I think the most useful use would be in Pac-Man Versus, where the GBA controls Pac-Man and the GameCube controllers control the Ghost. And the Ghost capture one, they want to switch controllers. And that can lead to a tangled mess, so I recommend use a Wavebird. With the cost of Rumble, not to film the Rumble feature. So anyway, now here's the fun part. Here are some gameplay footage that I captured. Now, unfortunately, due to how hard to find these are, especially a certain RPG, I'm just going to use emulation. Just with widescreen support for your viewing pleasure. Anyway, here's the footage that I captured.
Greedy cat. Say, my burrowing friend, I don't suppose you could be a sport and help out an old chum. I guess I could try that, but it'll cost you. This looks like a good place to dig. Thanks, old pal. You're a star. Not as big as me, of course, but a star nonetheless. Gee, you
The distress signal still transmitting.
Scheme new target has been confirmed.
You've got to destroy that last one. Find it on your radar.
If there are survivors, they'll be the only witnesses.
We've got to rescue them.
I got a bad feeling about this.
That thing's huge!
So, the leader, huh?
That thing is giant and ugly.
Shield analysis complete. Bringing it up on the monitor.
Now, Fox! Its weak point is on the top!
Get on top by hovering.
Oh, now I have a wedgie. This is the worst. Fire in the hole. Eat my dust eater. As soon as I'm done scratching myself, your history. Ow! Ow! My neck! Woohoo! Ouch!
Help me with those fighters.
I'm on it, Luke.
Nice shot.
2 more to go. 1 more to go.
Help me with those fighters.
Hang on, I'm coming.
We're on your side.
These just ooze macho.
Well, that was some fun captures. Now, I was debating about showing the Simpsons hit and run footage. Because, well, for Bandai Universal, later merged with Activision become Activision Blizzard. I was debating about showing them. But since it's a licensed game, that counts. If it wasn't a licensed game, then I would have not showed it. Now, what's the last life for the GameCube be like?
The final first-party title for the GameCube is, oddly enough, The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess, released on December 11th, 2006. What a fitting last hurrah for the Nintendo GameCube support by Nintendo themselves, as it was released 1 month after the Wii version of Twilight Princess. Nintendo will not do that tactic to release a game on their previous and next system again until 2017 with Breath of the Wild. The GameCube became discontinued in 2007 so that they could focus on their Wii. Also, a little sign up here. Wii models before 2011 will play GameCube games, but you will still need a game controller to play them.
Well, if you're not wondering what Wii model that is, that was the original 2006 Wii. And in case you're wondering where I got it, that was actually my Wii from the year 2006. Like, when the Wii came out, in addition to playing on GameCube or the original Wii, you can also use an emulator, like Dolphin, which is how I was able to capture the footage, by playing it with an Xbox controller. In addition, you can also enable anti-aliasing and load custom textures. I have those turned off to relieve your nostalgia. Now, here's the debating part. I've seen some people talking about the GameCube scene as the most creative era for Nintendo. I think I kind of know why, because, well, since 2009, Nintendo's becoming more stale up until 2017, with the flagship franchise thanks to a certain game. I'm looking at you, New Super Mario Bros. Wii. Yeah. Now, before we end, let's talk about some extra trivia. Eternal Darkness was not only the first M-rated game published by Nintendo under their name, it's also the first Nintendo published game to release after Satoru Iwata became president and during Satoru Iwata's presidency. Secondly, the game Mario Party 4 pretty much is the debut of the current designs for many Mario characters, including Peach and Daisy, and the Goombas. But characters like Piranha Plants and Flumps won't receive those designs until Super Mario 64 DS, which is a remake of the original Super Mario 64. Now, one important thing to point out is that the game Star Fox Adventures was the last game Rare developed for a Nintendo console. As we all know what happened next! Yeah. Now, before I end this video, I have an announcement to make. Mud and Friends will be returning in March. So, be prepared. Well, that's it for this episode of Vintage Tech. I'll see you guys later. Next episode, we're going to talk about something that's going to turn through this year. The mini disc. Now, I don't have the format, but I actually ordered a mini disc recorder and 2 discs off of eBay, and it's not here yet, so I won't show you it. But anyway, I'll see ya later. Update, but I know I finished exporting this video, and it's supposed to be scheduled today, but a day after I finished exporting, guess what finally came? Yeah, that's right, I now have the mini disc. That's just a quick update to let you know.